Joshua Greene, Moral Tribes, Emotion, Reason, and the Gap Between Us and Them. In Moral Tribes, Emotion, Reason, and the Gap Between Us and Them, Joshua Greene delves into human cooperation and conflict, exploring the tragedy of the commons and the tragedy of common-sense morality. Drawing on thought experiments such as the prisoner's dilemma and the footbridge dilemma, Greene introduces utilitarianism as a philosophy that prioritizes happiness in moral decision-making. However, he acknowledges the importance of not dismissing individual rights in the pursuit of greater overall happiness. Greene continues by examining the automatic and manual modes of moral thinking and how empathy is influenced by physical distance and personal connection.
The tragedy of human cooperation. Humans have evolved to be capable of cooperation within groups but struggle with cooperation between groups. The tragedy of the commons, which is the conflict between self-interest and collective interest, is the clearest threat to mutually beneficial cooperation. This conflict is demonstrated through a story of two travelers in the Wild West. The tragedy can be avoided if individuals act cooperatively. The tragedy of common-sense morality is a second threat to beneficial cooperation, where one group sets its values against another. This is illustrated through the story of the Danish political newspaper Jyllands-Posten, which published cartoons satirizing the Prophet Muhammad. The conflict between Danish journalists and Muslims was a result of common-sense morality, leading to tragic consequences. The prisoner's dilemma. Art and Bud paired up for bank robberies and got caught. The sheriff split them up and presented a moral puzzle called the prisoner's dilemma. If one accused the other and kept quiet, they received different sentences, and if they both accused each other, they received the same sentence. The dilemma hinged on their moral principles and relationship with each other. If they cared, they would remain silent, but if they didn't, they would confess. However, the outcome would still favor confession, leading to an 8-year sentence each. This posed a problem for the League of Tight-Lipped Bank Robbers, where every member swore to keep to a strict code of silence. In this case, Art and Bud wouldn't be singing anytime soon. Utilitarianism, balancing happiness and individual rights. Utilitarianism places happiness first, but individuals should not be sacrificed along the way. Why do people work? For money, obviously, to buy food, to live and be happy. Happiness is the ultimate goal, and according to utilitarianism, the most crucial factor in making moral decisions. Take, for example, the footbridge dilemma. Utilitarianism dictates that if sacrificing one life can save 5, then it's the moral choice. However, utilitarianism also fails to value individual rights, as the enslaved minority in a happy society would lose their freedom. Utilitarianism ignores the moral negatives of slavery, and it should not ignore the inalienable rights of individuals in the process. Utilitarianism prioritizes overall happiness, but it should not come at the expense of individual rights. Automatic versus manual thinking. The modern camera is a great representation of our moral thinking, having two modes, automatic and manual. In an experiment by Baba Shiv and Alexander Fedorkin, it was shown that those under higher cognitive load were 50% more likely to make an unhealthy snack choice. This is because they were in automatic mode, where intuition and emotion guide decision-making. Our automatic mode is based on our accumulated responses shaped by genes, cultural experiences, as well as trial and error. On the other hand, our manual mode involves reasoning and thinking, considering both short and long-term benefits. The main lesson is that automatic thinking can lead to more errors but allows for easy decision-making without overloading the conscious mind, while the manual mode is necessary for critical thinking and risk management. Empathy and the dilemma of distance. A thought-provoking experiment conducted by the author and his colleague Jay Musin reveals that empathy is influenced by physical distance and personal connection. The strength of empathy was tested in 2 scenarios, one where participants imagined experiencing a catastrophic typhoon in a foreign country, and another where a friend provided them with a live feed. The results showed that those who projected themselves on the scene felt more morally obligated to help than those who received live feeds. A similar pattern was observed in a real-world scenario where thousands of strangers donated over $700,000 to rescue an 18-month-old girl trapped in a well, despite the fact that this sum could have saved the lives of thousands dying in developing countries. The author highlights that our emotions of anxiety and guilt trigger our sense of responsibility to help, but only if we feel personally connected to the victim. In essence, people can feel more compelled to act if the disaster is smaller in scale but closer to home than when it's more significant and distant. Finally, the author creates an analogy between spending money on luxury clothes and helping those in need. Just as the $500 spent on clothing could have a more significant impact on saving thousands of children's lives, our empathy and compassion can equally have a more significant impact on people's lives if we extend beyond physical distance and personal connection. The abortion debate from a utilitarianism perspective. The abortion debate between pro-choice and pro-life advocates centers on the rights and duties concerning a fetus's life, and when it begins. Rather than taking the when life begins approach, utilitarianism offers a more practical way to approach the debate. Utilitarianism poses moral questions to determine if early-term abortion is morally justified instead of when life begins. For instance, would outlawing abortion have positive or negative impacts on society? This approach leads to a conclusion that pro-choice has stronger grounds as the possibility of legal abortion maximizes society's overall happiness.
Greene's Immoral Tribes presents a comprehensive exploration of moral decision-making, cooperation, and the role of empathy. He raises vital points about the role of happiness in utilitarianism, but also emphasizes the importance of valuing individual rights. He further highlights the different modes of moral thinking and the power of personal connections and proximity in empathetic actions. Overall, Greene encourages readers to consider the broader implications of moral choices and utilize a better understanding of moral psychology to engage in more productive debates about contentious issues such as abortion, healthcare, and capital punishment.